So I literally finished just watching the third video, which you should, if you haven't seen, guys, they're all just kind of up here on the channel. Welcome and hello to Ginger Prime, everybody. And literally, Bellular goes and posts a fourth video. WoW versus 14 rating trials are exciting at all levels. Azeroth versus Hydaelyn. And I just had to. Like, we've already gone this far. We were already pot committed. So we might as well sit down and actually watch and react to this video. Chris and I are going to be filming our thoughts about all this. So I just want to make sure that I'm fully caught up. This is hopefully not that long. It looks like 10 minutes, but you know, I can get a little bit wordy.
We've got Candy Kit saying Shadow, I assume they mean Shadow Bringers. Raids pay off a lot more when you do level synced 50 ARR extreme trials. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so synced me.
I know Matt is going to dive in here and explain it to Bellular. They pay off a lot more when you do the level synced. Yeah, you're gonna end up getting put through the hoops in the level sync content. Chris has actually on stream been running minimum eye level synced extremes for the original. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's see what he says.
Means doing things at that level, which you can do. So the raids that are in like A Realm Reborn or in in Heavensward in Stormblood, you can do those now. And class design is different, so it's not exactly intact, but the raid is intact. You'll be down at an appropriate difficulty and level. It is kind of, imagine if time walking wasn't so janky.
Right.
That's what it feels like. To the point where there's the ultimate Bahamut fight, the Binding Coils of Bahamut, whichever the ultimate version of that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You actually straight up, like, that's not a thing you can do, like, synced, because it's really hard.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, they've preserved the ultimate fights. Now, over time, outside of the ultimates, and maybe even to a degree, with the different stats and how things work, the level sync content actually has gotten easier to a degree, especially because syncing has certain things that it does with like the additional stats that get attached and what have you. So at its core, the game has progressed easier, but they try to preserve the ultimates and not actually allowing you to level sync those or unlevel sync those, so that way you have to experience those fights as they were designed and intended for the level that they were, which gives it its own challenge, its own perspective. So yeah, anyway, we'll go ahead.
It is nuts. So it's almost like, oh yeah, I've heard, you hear that say, I'm trying to think of a good fight. People say, oh, Battle of Desire Lore is one of the best raids in a long time. I wonder what Mythic Jaina feels like. And you can't experience that.
But in FF I could.
In FF you can go experience that. You would need to have the people, but you can just go do that. The rewards don't, like, you'll get like rewards from the time, so gear from the time for like appearances and stuff like that. But it is just, you can do it synced for the experience. It's not intact, but it is there.
But see, that just has me thinking, like, dude, if I could, like, kind of go do Desire Lore as it was, that'd be so incredible. But that actually doesn't work with WoW, because Desire Lore was designed around Heart of Azeroth and Azerite armor and all of that stuff, so it wouldn't really work with WoW. But in principle, the idea of basically, from what I understand, it's not like Mythic time walking, because time walking, your full character transports back in time and it's scaled. Whereas in FF, like, you lose abilities if you didn't have, if it would send you actually back.
Yeah, I see what they're talking about. Actually, one of the things that it does annoy me at the level sync within Final Fantasy XIV is the loss of abilities. Originally, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it was, because you had to use like macros. There's so much work that you had to do. The quality of life has come in and it's made it really handy. But now, essentially, where you kind of run the old content, it does feel a little bit lacking in level 80. Now, at 70, it was not as bad. At 60, wasn't like, as the skills have kind of shifted off of those areas and into other skills that happen later. I think essentially that's kind of where I'm like, yeah, just give us our kit. Just like, if you've earned it, let us play with it and do something with it. That's an easier thing said than done. So I don't think that I'm sitting here like, oh, it's easy. It wouldn't be. Not at all. It would have to be something they have the design for and put a lot of work into.
To a level 50 version of the character you're playing, which I guess is how they can have all of those fights still work.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how if you get a whole bunch of level 60s in World of Warcraft now and you send them to, into Molten Core, they're going to absolutely cream it.
Well, here's one thing that's kind of weird about...
We, like, outside of the ultimates and to a degree the savages, like, you can go do level synced content and just destroy it, and then that scales in different ways. It has become easier just because of how the game has evolved, and maybe some of that's going to be clawed back with the stat squish that is coming with Endwalker.
With that, and it's like some of it comes down to the design of classes. They've definitely changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely massively different for some classes, and there's even whole mechanics that are gone now, like the original TP mechanic, which was I can't remember what it actually stood for, but it was basically like you used it up for physical abilities,
Right.
instead of you use mana for magic, use this for original stuff.
Yeah,
and then
actually, like, if y'all haven't experienced that was actually one of the things that prevented like big massive AoE pools, because you would easily just drain out your TP, thus you couldn't use your skills and have to just kind of go to basic auto attacking. With that being removed, it's just like AoE spam all the time. There's no cost. There's no same thing with ranged attacks as well. There's no cost to putting out damage in that way.
Like it was basically used to limit certain abilities.
Yeah, it was.
So most abilities, most melee classes would regen more TP than they use, unless you were spamming AoE, for example.
I like Matt.
So I played a warrior.
I'm a fan of Matt now.
Thing, and going into a thing and pressing AoE ability, I couldn't spam it. I'd run out of TP, and that kind of sucked. But that's just gone now, so you can just spam it, and they've adjusted everything. So there's definitely been like big changes that are good, but it's completely. Oh yeah, and that's right. Someone in chat just said the sprint ability ate your entire TP bar. Now sprint is like a movement speed thing you can use in combat when you need.
Okay.
And that used to be frustrating, but so the point I was making there was that like it's definitely different, but all of that stuff is still there, and people are saying like Kwang Ma saying for Matt on the topic of Ultimate Bahamut, which is the unending coil of Bahamut. The weapon you get from it and for transmog is unique, and the title is very prestigious, and that's because it's literally the hardest shit in the game. You can just go give it a try.
Is Bahamut? What's that the boss of?
There's an optional raid, so not part of the MSQ. An optional raid in A Realm Reborn is the Binding Coils of Bahamut, which is this series of raids. And I haven't even done them. I really should. I really should. But I just keep forgetting.
# have Matt do the raid.
And they seem amazing. But also, yeah, because there's a storyline attached to A Realm Reborn raids, I can just go do them and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what that is.
There's another thing, Unreal Trials, that Nino just supered us about
Unreal
that
Trials.
as well.
So I actually have no idea how difficult they are, but they are limited time available things. Because I think they're in Shadowbringers at least. They're old fights, but designed anew and harder. So you've got your trials, which are like I was talking about, the raid bosses that are single boss part of the MSQ. That's what a trial is. I think there's some that are optional as well. I don't completely get the distinction between trials and raids outside of...
yes, he hits it. Now, I think he would feel the difference in Binding Coil and Alexander versus Omega and Eden, where those are very trial-esque, and essentially the trial ends up being kind of the mid-stepping tier into the Savage Raid. So it would go normal, extreme trial, Savage Raid, and so that's just kind of that, where you don't have any trash. And so there used to be a distinction. There isn't a distinction anymore.
Trials seem generally easier,
right?
But the Unreal ones are extremely difficult. So they're Unreal Trials, or the ARR's extreme, scaled up to 80, which is current content.
Okay.
Which is different from going back and doing the extreme synced. But it's just...
This is where I struggle, because it's like there's so much domain-specific knowledge.
Yeah, there's so many terms, but it's like, as far as I understand, extreme trials are essentially slightly easier than savage raids, which are difficult raids.
Hey, all right.
Heroics?
No, don't let.
Okay.
Probably. I don't know how they compare to mythic raiding in WoW, because they're like 8 people, and the entire difficulty is different. And here's actually one of the things. Okay, it's synced upwards, right? So, yeah, people say Unreal is what time walking would be conceptually.
Okay.
But my point I was making was more about how I was talking about all the TP stuff, but it's so normally you do a time walking dungeon.
Yeah.
And some things don't work because you just have a completely different toolkit for how fights work.
Okay.
The vast majority of fights in FF don't give a shit about what buttons you're pressing outside of healing, damage reduction, and your DPS. So it's not like you're doing a load of CC at the
Yeah.
right times. There's some fights where I think you can use.
That's one of the things I think as long and old school players that it's like we have CC, but it ends up just being like burn it down, burn it down, burn it down, and so there really hasn't been a need. And maybe there is in some offshoot of a piece of content that I'm not even thinking about. Maybe in Delmsel Darkhold, where that ends up being a little bit more important to the survivability. But overall, I think people would rather just wipe and just try again.
It's like slowing CCs and stuff, and they're helpful, but they're very
slow.
rare.
Slow's a
Most
real
of it is
important one.
literally just character movement.
Okay.
Your character movement in a group, and sometimes when you press an extra button, that's how fights are designed. And it's such a different toolkit than what World of Warcraft tends to use. It's similar, but for like dungeons and stuff, it's just completely. Oh man, it's completely nuts. Honestly,
That's
completely
neat. Epic basic sword.
Yeah.
Epic basic sword. Yeah, it says they even made the duty finder part of the lore, which is just amazing.
Oh, that was
That's neat.
that was. I don't think they did that before Shadowbringers, but when there's a moment in that where it does kind of become part of the lore. It doesn't completely make sense, but there's a little bit of it does in a way that they haven't. They'll probably do it further in Endwalker, but they do it properly, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. That was one of the most exciting moments I've ever seen in a video game.
Wow.
And it's literally like there's one character casts a spell that they've cast before, and just the very fact that they've done this and how they say how they do the incantation, I was just like, fight.
So they're reaping what they've sowed.
Yep.
It seems like it's in so many cases it's just more than sum of parts equals big win. You go.
That's basically the entirety of it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like
completely insane.
Is that why, say, Levi Nussman here was able to super us, saying the best way I can describe the difference is WoW content lately feels like something to do, FF14 feels like someplace to be. Is that just like
Levi. I like it.
Is
I
a
like
comment like that
Levi.
just more like a manifestation of broad sentiment, your character
so.
feeling more personal, and then
Yeah.
I guess having more RPG-ish things. Like I've just noticed, like the dress up side of this game is really big. Like the glam community, you've got your free company housing, the way that crafting and stuff like that works seems to be just the community's more
Big,
important.
It's like it's massive.
I just wonder if
Oh my gosh.
it's those things that came together very successfully for this game.
Generally, yes. Generally, everything they do on that front is miles ahead of what other like similar games do. Outside of maybe in some weird sense OSRS maybe. But it's like the idea of all of your crafted stuff for housing, how crafted gear even fits into endgame like catch up sometimes. And then let's not even talk about how crafting is its own entire own game as is gathering. It's like they put sometimes it seems they put more work into designing crafters and gatherers than actual jobs, which is interesting. But it's just like people are saying glamour is a true endgame. It absolutely
I
is.
hate that. I hate that
It
phrase.
absolutely is.
Good, it's fun.
Yeah, but then it's the idea of like that. It's almost like the Algalon achievement for killing that at the right thing, at the right item level. I can't remember what the title was, but that's what people are saying. Like ultimate stuff is. It is just this is stuff that you can't cheese.
I like that. Yeah.
You go do that, and it doesn't matter if you were playing an ARR and got it, or if you managed to get a group together, last week. Absolutely remarkable stuff.
It's a really good
Remarkable
thing.
stuff.
From shooter.
It's a really good thing. Like at the end of the day, I'm really happy they preserved the ultimates the way they preserved the ultimates, and I know that like, I mean, we could get into game theory and how getting new people in is definitely good, but having not cleared the ultimate feels good that they're preserving it as well. That at some point that I just can't go and unsync it and be like, I did it. I think that's an important aspect overall to the experience of the game, and I'm happy that they've done that. And it's good that they also have the other option too. As a gamer who's had less time, sometimes it's nice just to go and farm various things in different ways and take in different parties and different people to do different things. And I like that flexibility as well, but I'm glad that there's something that's sectioned off that is preserved.
Shooter, yes, you said. Imagine an ultimate fight in WoW where we fight Lich King plus Sindragosa and the Blood Queen in an alternate version where Tyrion stayed frozen and Frostmourne didn't break. This is an ultimate. Damn. That seems pretty big.
I'm really, really looking forward. I'm really looking forward into actually doing that in a huge way. I don't know when I'll be able to get Ultimate on the go, but I definitely do want to
Seems
try it
wild.
at some time.
There's another superhero from Silnus Nightfeather.
Yeah.
Swell?
So
Silnus? I'm so... Right, here's the thing. When you are dyslexic as fuck and you actually look at words, it's very hard to pronounce them phonetically sometimes,
It's
so
true.
sorry. Night Feather. Let expense contract,
Oh, man,
Ian
it's
become
harder.
instant champions from beyond the rift. Heed my call.
Yep.
Apparently that is the line spoken when the Duty Finder is made canon.
That's it. Let expanse contract. Aeon become
That's
instant.
fun.
It's class. It's
Um,
class.
Well, that's fantastic, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Again, links will be in the description. I think it's time for me and Chris to go sit down and record our thoughts together and share about this entire thing. Hopefully Bellular keeps having fun, and it's really good that he's got Matt to kind of help guide him along. I think if you are a WoW refugee and you're wanting to bring your friends along, like that's a really good thing. Help translate, help kind of ease some of the concern. That ultimately will lead to a better experience, both for the game, the community overall, and hopefully for them and for you. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for Ginger Prime. My name's Brian. Hopefully Bellular doesn't post another video on this today. I wasn't planning on doing this, but it came out organically. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like that button, subscribe that button, clip that button, share that button, do all the button things that you feel like that you need to, that you want to. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Love you faces. Hope to see you in our next video, but until then, take care.